right? How everybody doing, all right?
Yeah.
I feel good tonight, man, to see everybody in the house, especially Overheads, Ed, Tasha, Rewalk, Black on Black, you know, everybody up in the house, Sonny, everybody in the house, is good to see everybody, all right? So let me bring this lady up, ATL style, all right? Microphone, I greet you all with the check, 1, 2. Oh, what's up, what it is, how you do? Excuse me truly for being frank, but it looks like y'all need a drink. So from the swank to the noblest fox, I have some rum and coke on the rocks. It's on the house, no need for tips, keep your chips. I just politely take a sip, so take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip, but take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip, but take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip, but take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip on its own. You're talking to that alcoholic and you don't. Goddamn, this drink is kind of strong. It's not that new Coca-Cola that is tamed, but that old Coke had the cocaine. And now you focus on the top, not that I slain. Like you want another shot to the brain. The gravy you try to smother as you trip, because you need another sip, so take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip and take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip and take a sip. Baby, baby, take a sip and take a sip. Baby, baby, take a... How y'all doing?
Yeah.
So, this lady asked me to be her presenter for tonight. And it's an honor to get up here and be her presenter. So, let me tell y'all a little bit about this woman, man. I'm basically going to break it down to y'all the origin of this woman, all right? And I know a lot of, they tell us not to use a lot of profanity. But you got to understand, a poet's life is a real-ass life. Come on. So I can only get up here and speak about us in a real-ass way. So to the people, I'm going to try not to use profanity, but I'm talking about GeorgiaMe. So slang talking profanity is going to come into the conversation, all right? So if I do use profanity, forgive me, all right? Just say forgive that goddamn heathen, all right? All right, so, where should I start? Okay, this is how we're going to break it down. This young lady, a lot of the female poets, the younger female poets, they see how the veteran male poets, how we interact with Georgia. And they always ask, you know, why y'all treat her so special? Why y'all treat her so special? And I always tell them, I say, she was the first one. I say, this what you mean first one? I said, she was their first thoroughbred. She came out there, she took her respect. You know, she took her respect. When she came out on the mics in Atlanta, it was basically male dominated. You know, and we really, and I'll be honest, we really laughed at the women poets. We really laughed at them. I was the ringleader. The women poets would come off the mic, I would go up to them and say, well, y'all Atlanta with female poets, y'all ain't shit on me. Y'all are weak. You know, they would just grab their pants and ball up and just walk off. But little did I know that God is a fair God. He's a fair God. Because me and those men poets who were ostracized and criticized the women poets, we didn't realize that God had a weapon that he was about to send to the sea to let us know how fair of a God he was. And so she always says, when she said she started, she said the poets would always validate her by coming up to her and say, yeah, Cola said you was tight. And it was true. Poets came to me to validate other poets. But little did she know that before I validated her, I kept hearing her name. It was ringing. Everywhere I went, everybody would always be talking about her name. And they would say it just like this. Because when she first came out, a lot of people don't realize Georgia was pregnant. When she first came out, she was pregnant. And everybody would come up to me, you know, with their funny look on their face. And they would say, man, you ever seen this big pregnant bitch on the man? And I would be like, who? And they say, this big pregnant. Now, at the time, they wouldn't tell me that she had just beat their ass in a poetry contest. They wouldn't tell me this now. They were asking to see if I was going to validate her before they validated her. But I had never seen her. So I couldn't validate her. So I just said, no, I ain't seen her, I'm trying to see her. So for a whole year, for the whole time that she was pregnant, I could never see her. I would always be sitting back in the poetry spots debating and talking, and I would always hear the crowd just roar. You know, somebody just killed them out. And then somebody would always come out the back. And they would always come out the back and they would say, oh, man, it's pregnant. And she just told me to be shot. She just told me. And I would hear that. I was a pregnant woman. I would run trying to see if I could find her. She would always be gone. I said, dang. And so one day, one fateful day, a radio personality in Atlanta, she started having these poetry events where the top poets come out. So I was sitting in the chair waiting for my turn to go up. And she said, Miss GeorgiaMe. And I looked over to the corner, and it was about 20 ghetto chicks in the corner. She had her little chili was in the corner. And she got up, she had a big bag of sweatsuit on with her bubblegum Reeboks. She was hooded up. She had her braces on both arms. You know how the ghetto chicks do. With their head wrapped. And she came up to the mic, she threw up the W for the West Side. You know, and by her gear and her confidence, I said, okay. I said, look at this motherfucker here. That's what I said. I said, look at her. You know, I was geeked off the style. You know, I was geeked off her style and her confidence. But then I said, okay, can she get down? And she jumped into the poem about niggards and started throwing her arms all wild and rolling her neck and her head and walking around and acting it out. And this was my exact words. I sat back in the chair, tilted my head. I said, I can fuck with this motherfucker. That's exactly what I said. And after that day, when the poets started coming up to me, I said, yeah, man, she official. She can roll with the dogs. She can roll with the dogs. She can roll with the dogs. And after that day, I used to never see her. And she had to have the child by this time. I would never see her. But after that day, I was seeing her everywhere. And every place that I seen her was the place where we were battling for money. And she was in there tearing our asses up. No matter where we went, she was tearing. I would come out to the spots. You know, I had a 90% chance of winning. You know, so my mindset was like, I'm going to come up in here. I was already counting money. Whatever porch spot I went into, I was like, all right, it's $500. I put that $500, $100 and pay my rent. You know, I was already counting money. You know, I wasn't giving a damn about the poets. I said, I was already counting money. Then I would look out the corner of my eye and see this woman come here with this big Easter hat on. And I would say, kiss my ass. Because that 90% chance of winning had just fell down to 50-50. And if it was an all-woman crowd, I just packed my stuff up and left. Because I know I couldn't beat her with an all-woman crowd. But it's an honor to have this woman, it's an honor to be presenting this woman her award. Because like I said, we've known her, like one of my poetry partners, a jar, he once told me, he said, Cola, we lived our young life together. And when he said that to me one day, I was like, damn, I didn't realize it, but we had. And when I first met Georgia, one thing I can say about her, she's consistently been herself. And that's a real ass saying that you can say to somebody. She has consistently been herself. She's always been this idealistic, let's save the world, clean up the hood woman, that when I was younger, she would get on my damn nerves with her. Because I would come to her house, she would be trying to help out 20, 30 people. You go in the house, and there's about 20 burnt out people sitting around the house. And I said, George, why don't you get rid of all these weak-ass people around you? You know? But as we got older, I realized this is who she is. She likes to help people. I mean, she's really, really got a good heart. Y'all can go to her house right now. Her house is like a homeless shelter. Anyone been to her house is like you got crackheads in the attic, drunks in the basement. Y'all make a plan. And anybody who's been to her house is like a homeless. She let anybody come stay with her.